Lately, it seems like everyone has an opinion on Arda. People are arguing about his pace, that he is sleeping, or whether the whole thing is even real. But while the internet was busy fighting, I wanted to see what the data actually says about the community. I scraped 11,200 comments to understand how the sentiment shifted over time, but also to find out who the biggest supporter and hater was. To get an objective picture, I wrote a custom Python scraper. Arda has a ton of old videos eating burgers and doing food challenges, which completely skewed the results. Then, I realized he also has some videos doing MMA. So I got flooded with comments about UFC and fighting techniques. Finally, I kept getting weird results about Season 25 and Japan from some old travel vlogs. Once I hit the clean comments, I ran into the next problem. Analyzing 11,000 comments by hand wasn't an option unless I wanted to sit here for a month. So I built an automated pipeline using an LLM. Specifically, Meta's Llama 3. I prompted the AI to look at each comment and determine the overall sentiment: positive, negative, or neutral. I also wanted to know what the comments were about, so I specified categories I thought were relevant. For example, was the comment talking about his pace, or was it just general support? But here's the thing about AI. It isn't perfect. Sometimes it hallucinated categories or grouped things in weird ways. For example, it would forget about case sensitivity and write some categories with lowercase letters while others were in uppercase. So I had to add a final cleanup layer. I built a mapping script that took all these chaotic labels and funneled them into the standardized categories. Once that was done, I double-checked to make sure all those labels were funneled correctly. Then I could finally look at the actual results. When I generated the first charts, the numbers were actually pretty clear. Despite all the noise in the comment section, 53% of comments are positive, 25% are negative, and 22% neutral. So the majority is actually on his side. But the real story is in the timeline. Looking at the daily mood, you can see that starting on the second day, the hate spikes significantly compared to day 1. But then, on May 9th and 10th, there's a massive shift where the support just explodes and completely takes over. And if we look at exactly what people are arguing about in the narrative shift chart, it gets even crazier. On May 5th, almost nobody was complaining about his pace. But the very next day, that category suddenly multiplies by 5. The exact same thing happens with the fake category, where hundreds of people suddenly convinced themselves the entire run was staged, which is hilarious considering there was a literal live stream running the entire time. Finally, I wanted to see who the loudest voices were. I wrote a program to calculate a score for a ranking by subtracting positive comments from negative ones for the hater leaderboard, and by doing the exact opposite for the supporter leaderboard. But why not just use an average, because in this case the average would lie. If someone leaves one angry comment, their average is 100% negative, but if a dedicated hater leaves 40 negative and 10 positive ones, the average is just 80% negative. I wasn't sure if I even have enough data to find the same users on different videos, but it worked pretty decent. Overall, you can clearly see that the supportive side wrote much more comments in total than the haters. Also, if you're curious what these colors mean, they show how much percent of the comments from that user were positive, neutral, or negative. That's it with this video. If you have any questions or want to see other statistics too, write them in the comments or join my Discord server and I will post them there. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you didn't, give a dislike and tell me what I can improve next time. Goodbye.